Well, I've got my deep shrinker stretcher. Thank you very much to my wife. Still the only breadwinner in this household. So, gee, I hope I've got room because it's getting rather cramped in here, but I thought long and hard, and this will save me a lot of welding and grinding if I can. Let's do a comparison here and I'll explain the differences. So here, this is my shrinker stretcher setup. That is the maximum depth, 1 inch, that I can reach into a panel and make those changes, either shrinking or stretching. Now when you compare it to this one, this is how far. I think it's 165 mils. This is 205. I can't remember now. So this is how far I can reach into a panel. Rather than just the depth of the jaws, I can go this much past. And this also will work on curved surfaces, so it doesn't just flatten it out every time. So it's a different system for that. And the other advantage is that if you've got, say, a lip, on the other one, that's it. As soon as you've got a lip on the outside, you can't get in anymore. That's the end of the story. You can get from only a flat. Here you can pass through there. So you might have a Z piece or something and you can make alterations left to right depending on where you position yourself, your workpiece, within this. So that's why this is around like that. So you can have a piece like that with a, say, big L shape, or even coming out to do something else, U shape or whatever, you can feed it through. So as long as you've got one open side, you can get into that piece. So it's more than just the depth, it's also all those extra functions that I just mentioned. So looks like assembly is required. No worries. Oh, there you have it. No instructions, strangely enough, but I mean, really, if you can't assemble this, you've got no business using it. So, it is beefy and quite heavy. Like, these jaws are 14 mil thick, so 9/16. So in the plates, well, should have looked at the plates on the side, are 1/2 inch, and these are 14 mil or 9/16. And it's got the depth of jaw from there to here, you're looking 200 mil, so what's that, 8 inches? Yep, 8 inches. So it's quite a beefy machine. Doesn't tell you which jaws are which. I also went for this is capable of doing 16 gauge or 1.6 mil. That's the only time the gauge numbers make sense to millimeters. So much more than my 1.2 of my other ones. And if you look here, as I depress this pedal, where's my foot? There we go. As I press this foot down, you'll see the jaws come together. See how that's coming together? So if there was a piece of metal in there, obviously I'm not going to ruin my ruler, it would grab it and then squeeze it together. I think 95% of the time I will only use it as a shrinker rather than having to change the jaws for the stretcher jaws, because I mean, I've seen shops who have 2 of these, but that is way out of my budget, and I wouldn't have the room for it either, to be quite honest. But what I liked about these, it's only 2 bolts. You slide these out, grab that set, and it's got the screws or anything, and an Allen key comes with it, and then slide the other set of jaws in. But I would probably either, if I've overshrunk something, I would just either hammer it out or just use the English wheel rather than swapping jaws back and forth. But yeah, it's a good quality machine. Metal Master Machining House, which is here in Forbes here, which is sort of a, what would you call that? Sort of a harbour freight, but that's probably downsizing it a bit, although I've heard that Harbour Freight apparently has good quality stuff as well, and they are improving their quality. This is sort of a bit above your, this machine in particular is, professionals use it, so it's not a hobby machine, your normal set. And that came, my other set that's over in the corner there, that also came from that place. It's a very early model of theirs, and that's more aimed at the hobbyist rather than the professional that this is. So I'm hoping that it will really make a big difference when I start making the inside of these everywhere, that I can just do 2 back-to-back folds in a Z shape on the main folder, and then start shrinking the inside and stretching the outside, and they're going to be quite big depths that I can then put that curve that this is going to require. That'll make a big difference then, all the time it takes to tip it in the tipping wheel. Anyway, I'm pretty pleased with that. I never thought I would own one of these, so we haven't been doing any overseas travel, and my wife's quite happy to spend it on machinery instead. Our cat is keeping us home and stopping us going on holiday, so you might as well put that money to something we can use for her car, after all. All right. I'm happy with my latest piece of machining. It's been quite a while since I've had something new. Cheers. Alright, I found the base where they've welded this pad on. It's slightly warped, it actually kicks up. You can actually physically see it. So when it's on the ground, it was just resting on here, and the whole thing would wobble like crazy. So I didn't like the idea of just scraping the base and pulling all the powder coat off when I have to move it around all the time. So I've just bought some threaded in feet for it. So these are the holes that are already in there. I think that's to bolt it to the floor. Well, it wouldn't suit my application. So for those who don't know what Riv Nuts is, that's just one of the brands, or Rivet Nut, and the other one's just a thing. These are all different sizes. So this is a big kit, as in goes up to M10. I've got a smaller kit as well for the smaller sizes. I've also made up dies that I can use these jaws to create a recess, so the head of this ends up sitting flush. It makes a little dimple in your sheet metal, which worked really well, which is what I used for the M10s. Anyway, so it's like a rivet that when these jaws come close, they squeeze this out, so you can see the thread inside, and you've got a matching thread in here. So that screws on, and that obviously matches the thread of the adjustable feet that I just bought. And so I open this up, and what I usually do is I just set the jaws. You can adjust it up and down, but I just usually screw this riv nut in until it's on a comfortable angle. It's probably a little bit much, something like that. And then you put it in. See if I can do it with my knees. You close this up like that, and then you screw this in a little more, and you squeeze it up again, and then you can thread this out, and you've got yourself a riv nut that will sit in there to screw your foot into. And there you go, for those that don't know. And there you go. The rivet with a threaded insert as part of it all goes in, and now I can, whoops, look at the camera. Now I've got feet on there, and I'll just do the last one, and I can even adjust these up and down depending. No concrete is perfectly smooth, so if it's a bit wobbly, I'll just adjust the leg and this will be a much better unit. Cool. Right, a whole new template has to be made because the shape of the front door is nothing like the back door, as in the window shape is actually very similar, but it also shrinks as you go down. The curve is similar, but the top of the door suddenly curves off. It was quite difficult to lay out, and I'm still not 100% sure, so I left extra width, especially around the front area, because I've just tipped this, done the usual step for where the pinch weld sits, and this has to be dead straight, remember? If you thought the other one was bad, you can just see here, this was dead straight before I folded it in the opposite plane, so this needs to remain flat. And just look how much suddenly the curve increases. Oh my goodness, look at that. We've got ourselves a hockey stick. So because this here, the first part, is similar sort of pull as the other one did, but that last steepness in that curve, because of that, the front part of the front door there, is induced a lot of tension and caused it to hockey stick like that. And the only way to straighten that would be to straighten that whole thing out. But I just think that's more than that metal can handle. It would end up so thin here by the time you stretch all that out. So I'm going to have a think about that, because what I might end up doing is just where that steep part starts is cut straight ahead, take that V out, pull this across, and then weld that section. I had a feeling that might happen, and because the curve is just too tight. See, it's just induced from that curve. I haven't put a curve in this way, I've only put a curve in that way. But look at the result. So if you ever want, if someone ever argues that tipping something on a curve doesn't introduce tensions in the opposite direction at the same time, well, there's your proof of the pudding, isn't it? So I think it'd be stronger for the metal just to be cut and welded on the edge, just for that worst bit here. I'll stretch this edge all the way along to get that curve out. But the amount that you would have to thin that from one end of the panel to the other, even just shrinking in from this end, it's just not worth it. You're putting just too much stress on the panel doing it that way. Just so you can say you did it in one piece without a weld. I mean, I did those ones without a weld, but still, it's not. I think it's more stress to the panel that way. So I think that's probably what I'll do. All right, decided the least amount of stress on the metal would just be to cut along the edge of the fold. So what I've done is I've cut it, you can see just where the roll from folding it finishes. So this can then be basically cut straight, and then this bottom half welded back in once it gets pulled around. So I think that'd be a much better way to go. Already the gap, I haven't done any stretching anywhere else yet. You can see the gap is better. I didn't want to come back too far either, so I'm going to start stretching that whole edge in here no further than halfway with more pressure right near the fold, and then ease it off as you come out with less passes. So by using the English wheel tilted just slightly. I might even try a thinner shim this time. So yep, it's no different now really than the ones above the back doors. So that's what I'll proceed to do now. Alright, I've welded this up, so now all this is straight along here by wheeling like the other one hard up against the fold. You can see better in those reflections there. There's still just a few touch-ups to do, but I won't do that until it gets folded up the other way again on the next fold. And as you can see, it's all just cleaned up and ready to go. So we'll deal with whatever this throws at it. I dare say it's going to be more problems with this one because of that tight one. We could face similar problems. But what I'll do is I'll start tipping it, and then I'll stretch this edge as it goes up to help it roll over. Otherwise it's just going to suck down because that edge is going to need to be stretched a heap as it comes over because it's such a tight radius there. The rest of this will actually, on the other one I found it actually put the radius in that I needed and a little bit extra. Just folding it over on that radius made it also curve this way, and the 8mm or 5/16 that the other one shrunk by before I rolled it over. So I left it and folded it, and it stayed, it went back to true. So I'm hoping something similar, but it's always going to be a lottery because each radius is going to react differently depending on its length as well. So you think, oh, okay, that radius will move 5/16 8mm, but it's over that 3 foot distance. As soon as you get it longer, you're going to have to start calculating all that in. So who knows? Alright, it worked a lot better than the inside, no cutting and welding, because I'm only dealing with a smaller mass here. But having said that, I would have, to get that smaller mass and be able to do that corner without welding, I would have had to cut and weld the entire length. So by only doing that part, I've still saved a lot of time. So as soon as I got it probably about to that angle there, I already started stretching this outside to help it come over, to stop it diving away from the pressure of not enough material around the outside to help this curve. Another modification I made was to the tipping wheel itself. These come, this one I've got here with the, normally comes with a softer urethane bottom end, that clearish looking one there, is that it's just squared off, so you've got a square edge, and it's always worried me since I got it. What it tends to happen is you end up with that sort of 3mm thick sort of mark all the way along that you can see, and if anything, if you've got too much pressure, it'll leave that imprint there that wide all the way across. So what I did is I put it in the lathe and I just softened the back edge of it, so you've only got less than half the landing there now. It's probably maybe that's about 4mm and it's about 1.5 left, and I put it on the harder urethane bottom, and that was much better. I could control, and it would actually bend easier because you're basically only bending on a very thin radius rather than one that was nearly 3 times as thick. So it was much harder to lift up, and also it didn't wander around with the pressure. If you put too much pressure on the other one, it would actually slide out from under it if you didn't want to leave that sort of channel being made by it. So that was definitely something I thought about from the moment I got it out of the pack. I'm thinking, that's really weird that it's got a flat, square edge to it. When you're doing it on a soft lower, and this is a medium hard, I can't remember the durometer of that. I think this one's about 85 and the other one's about 70, something like that. So I think one's polyurethane. Anyway, whatever. So that is definitely a help as well. So this is where it all goes wrong. Up until now, all the extra material is an advantage because it's more leverage when you're tipping, etc. And this fold didn't affect that one at all. It's only when you get to this one here and you suddenly tip that out that it really sucks the curve out of here. Now, I touched on that with the last one when I was doing ones for the back door, that I lost basically 8mm of radius, so I made sure it had 8mm extra on it, and I've done the same with this one here. It's the same length. Most of the curve up until this point is the same as that curve there. It's only here where it pulls more, but I've already stretched that a lot to get it around. So I hope that at least up until here that I don't have to do any more alterations once that second one is turned. I think here I might be shrinking this edge or stretching this one to help straighten it up. Time will tell, at least by taking note of measurements of how much you are more, so I've got more curve than the actual template after tipping, and to see how close I get that once that second one is tipped, then that it ends up flattening out to suit the original template again. Anyway, wish me luck. This is a good example of, I was talking about how much I had to stretch this edge to make this curve around as I was tipping it for this fold. Now that I've gone on the second one, we actually need the opposite. It's pulling this away, flattening this fold out, because now I've got too much material through there, and that's why the ruffling. A lot of this is going to get cut off. It's going to be 1/2 inch 13mm wide, and that looks like more like 18 or 19. 19 we've got, or 3/4 inch. So I will now shrink that edge to before I tip it that final. This is what it looks like coming straight off as far as I can really go. You just can't see it. Even with a vertical, I can get a lot further with that style of tipping wheel, but you're still quite blind in here trying to follow the line accurately. And what I do like, now that I've narrowed that tipping wheel point up a bit more, it tracks so much better, and you don't have any of that channel. You've just got that one line right in the corner there, and that's all. So that's definitely worthwhile. So I'll be using the new shrink stretch. I've been using it already on this piece. So far, opinion on it, I don't find it as aggressive as your cheaper flat jaw ones. They seem to pull really well. This is wonderful for getting into pieces and truing areas up where they might have bulged in the middle between two folds, if you know what I mean. So you can put the piece in here. It doesn't mar quite as much as far as that goes, and you can really easily see the edge of where you're shrinking up to. So it can't do what I was hoping, and it's probably overambitious, was that I thought I'd be able to say, when I had that big curve in here, that I could come in and stretch all the way along that edge using that, and then straighten this up rather than using the English wheel. And it's just not powerful enough to come in here and then stretch this out to force everything away when you've got this much material on the other side of it. So I was hoping that I could do 2 folds in my normal straight folder, say for this inner step, which is going to have a step like this in it, and then oops, it's going to come in like that and go up. That's what the inner piece looks like. It goes up above the pillar, and then that will get braced off, and then the roof skin goes over the top without touching, but just short of it. I was hoping I could just do 2 straight folds, come in there, and then shrink these curves that I've been currently making that follow the gutter line, just using that. And it's just not capable of that amount of depth, of say 100mm depth, even though it can reach in that far. Even if you do, it just can't pull that material either in or out, depending if you're fanning it above that fold here to get the top line right, or you're shrinking the bottom line in on this one here. When you're talking those sort of depths, it just it can't just move that massive material. I mean, your material theoretically would end up, could end up twice as thick. This is capable of doing 1.6mm or 16 gauge, where the other style is only capable of doing 1.2mm or 18 gauge. So it has a greater capacity, but I was really hoping that some of those areas could be done a lot easier and not use the tipping wheel, and it's just not possible. But a fantastic aid, like you might have a little dip and think, okay, I've got a little bit of excess material there, and rather than heating up to try and shrink it in there like that little dip there, you just come in and go a couple of squeezes in the middle there, and it flattens that, removes that excess material and that dent straight out of it. So for that sort of work, now I, for the first time, can come in and make these corrections because I can slide the piece in. You cannot physically do this with the other one. You can't get past the front of the jaw. You can't have anything going past the jaws. So it's going to be brilliant to help true off panels a lot quicker without applying heat and everything and waiting for it to shrink. So, but I think these are far more, well, I built the whole truck just using this pair here. This bigger one just makes other areas easier and less time consuming, but I wouldn't be without this. It's as simple as that. That's great for just getting in there and aggressively going along the edge, and then I actually went over to there to get further in just to blend that into nothing, if you know what I mean. Anyway, just my thoughts. All right. So, putting that extra 8mm in, as you can see, I haven't been heating at all. I have been doing some stretches and shrinking on the stake dolly over the bench, using that as well to shrink this edge, outer edge, back again, so it would push that fold in that direction. So, look at that. It's not bad at all, is it? So I've still got a little bit of truing to do, but it's very, very minor stuff. But I'm not going to bother until I've cut this flange back from that 3/4 of an inch down to 1/2 an inch. I always leave a bit extra in case you have to move the fold back or forth. If it gets really bad and you've got a section that, say, dips down like this, you can move the fold across, and then means you're pulling material from here down there and across, and then all of a sudden that will end up short. So you don't want to do something like that too early. So I can do my final truing, and that will still take some time, and get everything dialed in, and then start doing some finish work and that sort of stuff. Like there's a little lump here, I already done a few of them. You just use the shrinker, pull that up, and or you knock that down, bring that up. I'll see what it needs at the time. So you can see here, these are the sort of marks that that big shrinker makes. Now, one of the advantages I hadn't thought of is that when you're doing something like a flange like this, because they're round jaws, is that when you come in here and you'll see the jaw close up, is that this is halfway exactly of that jaw, or a bit under still, which means it's pulling more here on the shrink and vice versa than it is here. So you don't have to do 3 passes here, 2 passes here and 1 pass there. Putting it straight into the bottom of the jaws is already doing that for you, because it's only pulling a little bit of material here at the point from that radius, yet it's got grabbing that much wider area to shrink in this direction, so you're getting that wedge shape or pie shape shrinkage happening, because it has to have much more on the edge, and vice versa. If I was trying to move the flange that way and these were the stretching jaws, these jaws would be pulling out, but they'd be pulling out more on the edge than on the end here. So that's something, it's quite a time saver. You can just whack it in there and work away at it. You can see the jaws come in, grab, pull shut, and that's what with the metal in between, it's pulling that metal together, and the other ones do obviously exactly the opposite. I've had to mark them because there's no markings on them, and you certainly wouldn't want one shrinking, one stretching on the set of jaws, because you've got to take them off and on all the time. Unlike the other one, this has got a double set. There's no way that I can shell out 600 Australian dollars for a pair of these. It's one of my, apart from welders, it's probably one of my more expensive pieces of equipment. Still, it's an investment, and I'm sure I'd be able to sell it at the end of this project. So we'll see what happens. All right, just thought I'd fill you in with thoughts as they come, because I'm not getting, unlike the other channels I follow that have been given all these sort of things on either for free or heavy discounts, or what do they do for them. This is all personal use only. I've paid for every single dollar, waited until they had a sale on to get it less than that $600, and it comes out of my pocket, no one else's. Well, my wife's really. Anyway, see ya. All right. It's the first time I've seen them together. I've just quickly clamped them up, because until I've got the back piece, there's not anything really to attach it to before all this gets later on fully welded in. So yeah, I'm pleased. It's looking quite good. I ended up having to, where I thought, put a little bit of extra heat to pull this around more, to correct. It's only because I'm that fussy, and one other spot there where it was pushing in too hard, so just ran the TIG along there quickly. This time I didn't make the mistake of using too big electrode. I'm only using, I think it's a 1.2, something like that, tungsten. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's correct anyway. And then just ran along quickly, and that way I didn't get any burn through or anything like that. And it still took a few tries, and also you got to be careful. Sometimes you have to sort of get it back into form. It can get out of form even though you're not adding or changing shape. So you might have to stretch it out a little bit or put a twist in it, that sort of thing. So overall, I'm pretty happy. I have got no idea where I'm pointed. So the next job will be to duplicate it for the opposite side. So so far 3 down, as you can see the other one for the opposite back door, and 5 to go.